We are Group 11 and this is our evaluation of our opening, Gutted.
We were given the following brief for our preliminary task, to include a variety of camera techniques and editing techniques. These include continuity editing, varied distance and angles, pans, steadicam, handycam, cutaways, 180 degrees rule to ensure correct perspective, shot reverse shot, 2 lines of dialogue and opening a door. We also had to consider framing. The briefing for our opening, called Gutted, was to make a 2-minute film opening or title sequence in the genre of either horror or thriller.
Comparing our preliminary tasks with our zombie horror film Gutted, we have taken 6 techniques from the initial task to make our opening have a variety of interesting angles. One of these is a close-up of a door opening. In our final opening, it is more frantic as they are attempting to get out of the place, whereas in the preliminary task it is more relaxed as it is at a slower pace.
Another technique used in the film opening was the use of handycam tracking shots. We felt this would give a more realistic feel as if someone was actually following them. In the preliminary task we used this technique, but we are unaware on who the antagonist is, but in contrast to Gutted, we know it is the zombies.
We have 2 moments in our opening where we show a low-angle shot of the protagonist being followed by the antagonist. In the preliminary task, this is a still shot with the antagonist lurking in the background. In our final opening, however, it is much faster paced to show the panic of the protagonist trying to get away from the antagonists. We like the use of shallow focus, with the grass in focus and the feet blurred in the background.
Similar to our preliminary task, our opening had female protagonists, but we added more characters, otherwise it would not have seemed plausible that a girl was exploring a house on her own. As we wanted a character to die within the opening, we needed more characters to make the plot carry on. The plot in Gutted is more complex than in our initial task because we have more characters doing different lines of action at the same time, whereas in our initial task it was straightforward as there were fewer characters.
Although in our preliminary task we used point of view shots, we did not use these in our opening, but instead we used a point of view from the 2 cameras that the girls were holding to give a more realistic feel to the piece. When our protagonist is filming herself, it breaks the 4th wall for the audience as she is talking directly to them.
The 180-degree rule was used in both our preliminary task and film opening. We kept continuity the same by making sure our characters were on the same side each time and remembered what movements they did the first time round.
For our location recce, we went to Wilderness Woods where we experimented with different shots and camera angles to see if there were any that seemed suitable to use in the film opening. One angle we liked was the canted angle shot. We felt this gave an obscured view for the audience to help connote fear of the unknown, which is why we have used it several times in our opening.
Another moment in Wilderness Woods we liked was the rule of thirds at the playground, so we added this technique at the end of our opening scene as it breaks up the framing, makes it more interesting to watch. We used Photoshop to make the video show through the text, so we have used multimedia. Following on from this, we also used titles in our opening. This proved difficult at some points as we did not want to distract people from the action, so deciding where to put them and how long to show them for. But we mainly put them in any spaces where the framing seemed bare.
The final technique from Wilderness Woods was a high angle shot with a pan. We used this technique as our protagonists were entering the house, as high angles make the characters look more vulnerable as the audience have a dominant view of them, making them seem exposed to danger.
Colouring in our initial task was not a problem as we were only filming on one day, so the lighting was consistent. But in our opening we were using several different cameras, so the white balance was different for a few of them. So we changed this by altering the brightness, contrast and auto colour so continuity was smooth. As we wanted to give a darker feel to the piece, we changed the saturation and lighting in the clips so it looked darker, as when we filmed some of the colours looked too bright to be in a horror film, so we counteracted this by using editing.
When we filmed the protagonist by the door, it was too dark to make them open the door to run outside, as it would have been odd for the sky to be dark and then suddenly become lighter again in the graveyard. So to make continuity successful, we decided to have a moment where there is no video, where we can hear a character shout, "Run!" a technique that we used at the end of our preliminary task. To make sure we didn't break any copyright rules, we chose a piece of music by an original composer from YouTube to build up tension in the house and chase scene. During the first scene of our opening, there are diegetic sounds of birds to create an audio bridge between each shot. This is a contrast with our preliminary task, where we kept all natural sounds.
The use of makeup, costumes, prosthetics and props really added to the feel of our horror opening, and this was a massive step up from our initial task. We performed makeup tests to make sure they looked all right on camera. After the first day of filming, we took pictures of everyone so we could remember what their makeup looked like so continuity was smooth.
In our final opening, we added titles to communicate the names of our actors and production team. We created the names and roles, as obviously we ourselves were the crew, but we felt it was worth including as it created a realistic opening. This was the first time we'd added text to a piece, other than a small amount of text introducing our recce footage from Wilderness Woods. In Gutted, the titles are in the font Go-Go Zombie and the main title in a font called Skin and Bones, both downloaded from the website Dafont.
Throughout the process, we've learnt and gained a lot of knowledge by doing the filming and editing.
And we know that the experience we gained from making this opening will help us in any future project.